going to try to get back into the alphabetical sequence, but I didn't know where to put this name, because the name is Joseph Bourret, but this was the name John Stevens. So John, wherever you are, please come forward and join us. Tell us what you did, where you went, what you've done since. That's the format for those who weren't here last year. Everybody had that chance. And we'll pick up with the rest of you as soon as we hear from John.
I'm here to give a lie to the notion that preachers are long-winded. Let me explain. I first worked in broadcasting in 1956, WOC in Davenport, Iowa, while I was a student in the seminary. I'm getting around to explaining that it's the preacher you're hearing. I finished seminary in 1958 and was ordained then. In 1972, let me put that another way. My wife will understand, I hope. The church is my bride. Broadcasting goodness, how do I put this? Broadcasting is
My mistress.
my mistress. Yeah, that'll do it. So I served as a pastor, for those of you who might be curious, in the Lutheran Church until 1972. I had been at WTIC to record some religious stuff. One Lent, and Chuck Reno, who was the producer at the time, said something like, well, you sound pretty good. Have you ever thought of doing anything in radio? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, yes. I worked at WOC in Davenport, Iowa. Another year I worked at WHBF in Rock Island, Illinois. So it was not anything new to me. Chuck sort of talked me into coming in on Sundays and doing some classical music. One thing led to another. Frankly, burnout in what I was doing professionally. So in 1972, I came to WTIC and worked full-time until everything went down the toilet, as it were. About what, 1974? Okay. Returned again to work with Walt Dibble in news. Also spent a little time with Dick Bertel and some others at WKSS. So that's the whole broadcast biography. But I want to return to what I said initially. Broadcasting has been fun. It's been interesting.
Okay. We're into the H's now, and the guy that is probably the possessor of the longest memory of the golden age of TIC is Jim Hopkins. Jim has helped write 3 books, supposedly authored by Alan Lugg. He ghost wrote the first 2. Jim, come on up here. Jim, maybe many of you didn't work with, but he ended up in the wonderful world of advertising, where some of us who became full-time freelancers would run across him and try to get paid. And John would know about that. At any rate, Jim, tell us about your era at WTIC, which was radio only back then.
Oh yeah, radio only. I was there from 1950 to 1955. And I can remember when I started, I decided somehow or other there must be somebody who writes in there, and I was looking for a writing job. And so I called the station, and Katie Mahoney told me that what I was talking about was continuity. And so I wound up talking to Alan Lund, That's where all this stuff began. But some of my recollections of TIC are funny. One of the reasons they hired me was to rewrite commercials for Bob Steele. Bob, in those days, you had to read all the commercials. No matter what it was, you had to read it. And he would get these things from big agencies in New York. They were all the same, you know. And he was sick of reading those. You weren't given a fact sheet or allowed to ad lib or anything. You had to read it. So one of the reasons they wanted me there was to write commercials for him, rewrite commercials for him, which I did and I enjoyed immensely. And often challenged him somewhat in the way I would write the commercials. Because unlike what Bill Steele has told me, he did read stuff cold. You were never allowed to read anything cold. But he did, because he was that quick and that talented. But anyway, trying to trick him into going down the wrong path with his inflections or something, I swear he had an eraser on his voice. He could go back and erase it and start all over again. He was just a tremendous, tremendous talent. And I was privileged to play along with him a little bit. That's it. Thanks.
Now we're into the K's, and before anybody else leaves, we need to get a show of hands about when to do this again. So this is the appropriate time to call to the microphone Dave Kaplan, who is in charge of these proceedings and does a very good job in making the arrangements.
Thanks, Bill. What we've been doing before, I'm thinking of doing it again, was just about 1.25 years from switching from spring to fall, because of the people traveling around and everything. It makes it difficult if you do it in the winter. We have it in last May. This is September, so I was thinking next May is too soon, but May a year after, in 2013. Try and do the same thing again. Comments? Suggestions? I guess not. Okay. We'll aim for that. Another thing, for those of you that are still here, since I've missed so many, if you could toss your name tags on the table or in the basket over there, we'll recycle them and use them again next time. Save us some money. Let's see. All sorts of good stuff here to read. I've got some emails from people who weren't able to make it. Just a couple of quick notes to say hi to you guys. Mary Ellen Shea, who was mentioned earlier, she sends her regards. She's not up to coming. Jim McDonald is going to be having bypass surgery next Tuesday at St. Francis. I talked to him a couple days ago. He sounds well, and it's not an emergency, so he has to have it done, but he sounds good, so he can't make it. Let's see, Rusty Rogers from the Down Homers. Actually, he wrote me a while ago. He wrote me a long letter, which I just posted on the web, with a typed translation, so to speak, because it was handwritten. And I had trouble, so you can read his letter on the web. Here's a letter from Lanny Pike from a while ago. Thanks for your letter. She regrets very much. He regrets very much he can't attend the reunion. He's 96, and his traveling days are over. And he sends his regards. Let's see. Here's from the TARS. Sorry that Jan and I have a conflict on Sunday. Hope you have a great time and plan to attend in the next reunion. Here are the Huntleys. Hi all. Wish we could, but we'll be unable to attend due to health problems. Miss seeing all of you good guys of all genders. Maybe next time. Here's one from the sister-in-law of a Hal Schneer's widow. Mary's been a resident in the Hearth in Southbury for about the past 6 months in their Alzheimer's unit. I think it'd be too confusing for her to attend, but thank you for remembering her. Steve Cohn, engineering, while we would love to be there with the gang on the 11th once again, we'll be boarding a ship in San Juan for another cruise. Please pass on our best regards to those from the old radio gang. I wish you well.
We enjoyed being there. We enjoyed being in each other's company. So it made it fun It was fun doing programs. It was fun doing whatever we had to do there. It was a band of brothers and sisters. But Jim, when Jim was up here talking about his experiences, Jim Thompson, it brought to mind one of the experiences I had one day doing that show, because that was one of the shows that I directed every day. And we had studio guests who would bring things on. And in this case, it was Jim Bonney, who came from the Laughing Brook Nature Center up in Massachusetts. And he brought a great big bunny, okay? And he and Jim were standing behind this counter. And of course, we had a live audience, if you remember. And it was a station, Ranger Station. And he and Jim are talking about Laughing Brook, about this particular animal. And excuse me, I forgot to enter the fact that this is Christmas time. And we had a beautifully decorated Christmas tree not too far away from this area where they were standing. So while they were in the middle of the conversation, the bunny jumps right out of Dave Bonney's arms and right on top of the Christmas tree, pulls the Christmas tree right over. This is live, you know, smashes the Christmas tree. The bunny dives under the benches where the kids are all sitting. They go into pandemonium, screaming blue murder. And I guess it was Jim, who was the MC at the time, didn't know what the devil to do, but we went to a commercial, and then Jim still couldn't get composure in the studio. We had to go to one of the cartoons for a length of time so we can regain our senses in the studio. But that was one of the more memorable ones. My God, who would have ever expected it? Another one, same show, different animal. This time it was a camel. A camel. Somebody brought a camel into the show. And I believe it was Jim again, it might have been Andy himself, was talking to him, and he had the camel just into the set enough so he could see him. In other words, the back part we didn't see. Well, the camel got spooked, and the camel started to pull away as Jim or Andy was interviewing the guest. And so slowly, they began to be pulled away from the set into a dark area, and the floor crew guy had to run over to the light board, flip on some lights offset, so we had some lights offset, and the cameras moved offset, and it was a totally different area. It was in dark minutes before. And again, a very hilarious thing to see that happen. But those were some of my memories of the ranger station that I did. But again, we had some wonderful, wonderful times, some experiences that we will all remember. And that's what brings us back, the Band of Brothers of Broadcasting. Thank you.
And I know that not only Dan, but Bruce Murray, who's next, had a lot to do with the Hap Richards show, too, which reminds us that we lost a really great, great guy just a few weeks ago. Floyd Richards, who had retired to Port St. Lucie, where he lived in a golf course right near Bill Conticello, as a matter of fact. And last time I saw him was about a year ago. We had lunch together down there. But Floyd's no longer with us, and he's the last of an era, really. Dick Patel kind of overlapped both the old radio days and all of TV. But Floyd goes back to 1944 at least. He graduated from the University of Notre Dame. He played trombone in the marching band. Was a very loyal Notre Dame alumnus, and did all kinds of things. Cinderella Weekend. He did sports. Just a super guy.